Stream. And it's me, Zero, here also today. Unfortunately, nobody else, but maybe we might get new people hopefully next week. But anyway, this was actually a good episode of Rider, so let's get right into it. Yeah, Toma is the main character. Kenza. No, I think Esparta is the new one, right? Yeah.
The porcupine or hedgehog.
Ah, shit. Okay, so we might have to go back from the start because I don't think your audio was coming through. Cause
fun.
yeah. Well, luckily we just started, so sorry. Could you just like start from the beginning? Yeah, my audio source for some reason was set to like it wasn't.
Your headset?
Yeah, well, it was set to the default, but right now my audio is coming out from it's coming out from my mic, so whatever. Like the bars weren't showing up in OBS, so I don't know if the audio actually went through or not. But like right now, I can see your bars. So,
All right.
yeah.
Let's try that again. Welcome everybody to the Toku Portal podcast for Kamen Rider Saber. I'm Vashi V.
And I'm Zero.
We're covering episode 4. I opened the book, therefore. Most of this episode is fights, so there's in that aspect, there's really not much to talk about. But some interesting things did happen. Buster and Saber basically, and I guess Blades was involved in it too, basically bitching about the promise that Toma made to rescue Sora.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, like mostly it's a Buster episode. Well, it's more like an episode where Buster accepts Saber, kind of.
That's essentially what it is.
Yeah, but it's also like a weird episode because this show continues to not do shit that's like Rider tropes wise, where it's like everybody's just so nice-ish. Well, I mean, Buster's not nice. It's just he's more level-headed than I thought he would be in this situation.
I think the reason why his character ends up coming off the way he does, with that more serious / kind of assholey thing, is because he's older. Everybody else in the series are basically kids compared to him.
Yeah.
So he has that veteran mentality of, why am I listening to the new guy?
I mean, that's fine. That's the thing I expected. But then, like, he's like, okay, yeah, you go save my kid. And here's the new power. And I'm like, okay, dude, like, you couldn't even stand this asshole. Now it's like, oh, yeah, my kid's been kidnapped by the monster. You know, like, worst case scenario. It's fine. You handle it. And I'm like, okay, like, I can kind of buy it because, like, the stronger monster is in front of you. Right?
Right.
So it's like, all right, the noobs won't have a chance against this guy, but that he never says that. He just kind of is like, okay, now I trust you. Go save my kid. And I'm like, what it's a little weird. Like it makes sense tactically. That is the right call. It's just the show just doesn't acknowledge that. It's just like, okay, yeah, now we're friends or whatever.
Like it's taking what would be 4 or 5 episodes of a character being borderline antagonistic to being buddy buddy, which in a normal writer series, that's what we would get for like the secondary or the tertiary writer. But
Yeah.
we're going full Sentai with this, so it's I don't like you. Okay, yeah, now we're friends because of reasons.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. I'm
Now,
like, it's very different than Rider because like it's too nice. Everybody's too fucking nice. Well, on the hero side, which makes perfect sense in the real world, but like you're not writing the real world. You're writing a show, and shows run on conflict for drama, right? And it's
right.
like conflict set up, and then like literally the same episode, it's gone. I'm like, okay, I could kind of see this. It's like, all right, I don't trust you. I'm the veteran. Let me lead. Sure. If he's like, all right, kid, you can handle this. But it's like, hey, my kid's gonna die, right? Oh, you go save him. I was like, that's a little off, but that's the only thing off in this episode.
Like it's one of those things. Like and that whole switch ends up basically being because of Kento. Because he basically talks to Buster right before all that whole scene, and
Right, and it
like,
all happens off scene or off screen.
right. Like that I feel is the biggest issue with that is because that was 90% off screen. That it feels more forced rather than natural sliding. Because it is a quick switch to you're a jackass to here, go save my kid.
Yeah, but like again, as I said, tactically it kind of makes sense because like a stronger monster is in front of him, so he's probably just buying them more time. But yeah, like I wish they were to kind of acknowledge that. But other than that, like everything else in this episode is pretty solid.
So there is a little bit more that goes into that decision that's really not fully explained in this episode. And that is and 90% of it involves with what happened 15 years ago. So Caliber, in an effort to continue to stir the pot, releases Disaster. Because naming things is difficult.
It sure is. Also, Japan likes English because they think it's cool, so, enjoy more random English words. Yep.
Honestly, to me, it's close. Like the Japanese pronunciation of it is so much closer for disaster. Is so much closer to disaster than need be, without just naming his ass disaster.
Yeah,
because
it's true.
Because it's literally add the O at the end of it, so it's disaster. So I'm like, you could have just made it disaster and just been done with it.
Pretty much.
But he killed several warriors of the Sword of Logos 15 years ago before being sealed away.
So I guess episode 0.
Yeah. He was part of an attack on Wonderworld and fought against Buster. But he ended up being sealed in an Alter Ride book.
Right.
So knowing that, it makes more sense that Buster would go, this is a problem, I'll take care of it.
Right. Except he doesn't acknowledge that they know each other until like halfway through the fight. And that's the only weird thing. But other than that, yeah, you're right.
Like I said, having this little backstory, that entire little thing makes sense.
Yeah. Honestly, that's actually a really good fight too. Because Buster's like, yeah, I'm a little rusty, buddy. It's been 15 years, and then it's like it's a fake out because he's just gathering time to power up. And then the monster is like, yeah, okay, I saw that, and they're powering up. It's like, oh man, that actually was a really good fight, honestly.
Honestly, to me, it's better than the main story fight.
Yeah, well,
Um,
because the thing is, like, it feels more like a traditional Rider fight without all the crazy CGI and gimmick shit. So it's like a fight that happens later on in a Rider show, where it's like it's
right.
more about the action, less about the gimmicks. So that's why it
And
feels a little more intense.
and given that Disaster is going to be a reoccurring villain, again, makes it feel like this would be, the start of the second arc.
Yeah, something like that. I mean, especially considering he shows up and he looks like he walked out of like early Heisei Rider. Like he looks like he's fucking undead. I'm like, oh, nice.
Oh yeah, like the biggest design similarity that he has is with Jinga from Garo Goldstorm's show.
Oh, okay. I was gonna say he looks like Joker, but like, yeah, I haven't seen that. Uh,
Um, and yeah, he really does.
Interesting.
Um, and that what's funny with that is I believe that is yeah, the freaking Decade's character
Right,
or
that's what I was thinking.
Decade's actor. I went
Nice.
and looked at the picture of him, and yeah, the picture they have on the wiki is very small, but yeah, it does share a similarities in appearance.
Huh, interesting.
But
Well,
he is
I guess
all
we're
he
continuing the Garo theme then.
right. But he is also what also makes him unique is the fact that he is the first monster to have been popped out of a book that doesn't have an alter book. He's got a Wonder
Right.
Ride book.
Oh yeah, it's true. Well, the thing is, they say he must have taken it from one of the knights he killed.
One of the previous knights he killed as he was,
Right. I,
you know.
I also like how he's like, oh, you're still running around with these book things. Like he doesn't give a shit about them at all.
Oh,
Which
yeah.
which is interesting because like that means that he's not from like the gimmick thing, or like he's a different class of monster or something. So
He is a different class because he is a unique Magid created by combining all three categories.
interesting. So we're
Um,
continuing the Sentai nonsense, I see. But that's
right,
fine. It's fine. I mean, writers
and
have had like O's sorta has something like this. That's
uh,
like the only one I can think of, honestly.
and he is considered a general.
Yeah, that makes sense. He's pretty tough. I mean, like, there's no way you let like a regular monster just poof out,
Right,
and it's like, yeah, okay, we'll fight later, right? Like, you don't let somebody pull a fucking gremlin, right?
right,
Um,
without him being important.
Yeah, without him being important. Like Gremlin shows up and he's like not the strongest asshole, but he's just enough time. Is like, okay, why are you sticking around so long until like, and then like Phoenix goes down. Is like, oh, I see. Right, you're here to stay for the long run. Which
Like,
is the other thing. It's like, oh shit, they're fighting a salamander monster, and then like he recover. I'm like, oh, does he get stronger? I was like, oh no, he doesn't, because I'm like, that would be interesting if we were doing like the whole
um,
Phoenix thing. But no, he just
um,
revives.
so based on the story which might as well talk about the other fight real quick. The that particular monster is based off the King Salamander story, which has a specific name, and give me 1 second, and I will find it. Henzaki. It
Hmm.
is
Yeah, it's old folklore, right?
yeah, but he is the first salamander themed monster of the Reiwa era, and to an extent, he is the first salamander themed monster since the salamander Imogen in Deno.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking too. I'm like, salamanders are pretty freaking rare. I mean,
But
like maybe you can say Evolt, but like Evolt's kind of got like a salamander snake-ish thing going on. I mean,
right,
like Evolve's final form, so it's a little iffy, but like, yeah, that's the closest one I can think of in recent memory. But even then, it's not the same thing.
but the story that it's basically based on is the more the salamander eats, it eventually eats enough, it becomes the king of the salamanders.
Oh, okay. That's interesting. I mean, that's cool that they're tying back like folklore and stuff, which is cool. It's sort of kind of like in Coast when like all the luminaries show up, you get like a little
Right.
story about them. But like this makes more sense because they're literally based off the folklore, so they just tell you what it is, sort of. Or at least I guess like it's famous enough that like most people would know what it is, and if not, the whole point is like, oh, then the kid's gonna ask the parents like, what's this story about? Then you know, then they can talk about it, right? So like that's cool. It's a good gimmick. Like again, like I said, this episode's actually good because like all the gimmicks and everything of the show is working how it should be, and it actually functions relatively well. So that's good.
Right. Like it's done really, really well for as awkward and weird as this episode is. Um, so when Buster decided he was going to stick around and fight, he gave um Toma the where is it? Needle Hedgehog book, and they
Yeah.
start. Him and Blade start off the fight using just the two books, and yeah, the monster's stronger now.
Right. I mean, makes sense because like they already kicked its ass. Like it wouldn't be a threat if
Right,
it wasn't stronger.
right. So Saber, in his intelligence, goes, "Hey, look, we can use three of these books, right? Because there's three slots." Takes Peter Fantasia from Blades and uses all three books.
Yep. And then it's like, oh,
Indeed.
power of Peter Pan, pretty much.
Yeah, the power of Peter Pan with needles and while on fire.
Well, sort of. I mean, the like it's essentially doing the Peter Pan thing, which is like the whole like, okay, Peter Pan's like a fencer. That's his thing. Um, and then like the fire, I guess, is just like the fairy dust thing. I guess it's like a homage, but they're like
Right.
mixing things to make it work. I love fucking May's reaction too, where it's like, okay,
Um,
first of all, May's actually kind of smart in this episode because like, oh, I'll use this book and then I get to go where Sora is. It's like, okay, I'm like, you can get there, but then what are you gonna do? But then she's smart enough to pack a firework. Cause like, well, yeah, I can put out a distress signal. I'm like, oh, that's so smart, right?
okay, so everything about that was brilliant, and it was brilliantly played out. My only issue is she only took one,
Yeah, that's
based
true.
on based on appearance, because and it only works in this episode. It plays out this way because show.
Right.
Because there's no guarantee that when she fired that off, that they would be in the Wonderworld. They could have still been back at the North Pole, playing with Santa.
Oh, that's
For
true. Well,
for
that's
all she
not
knew,
true because she knows that they were going
she knew
to.
that they
Yeah,
were
you're right.
going to go
She
back,
doesn't
but
know
she
where they
didn't know
went.
when.
Yeah, yeah, it's true. But again, it's writer logic, so I'll kind of let it slide. But you're right. Realistically, she should have had a couple backups. But like, hey, I'll
Like
give her points for being smart enough. You know, redundancy is a
right,
thing that most people or characters don't do, so I'm fine. I'll let it
no.
slide.
But yeah, like that was my only logic gripe to it. But other than that, flawless intelligence
Yeah, that was
because
pretty great.
she knew the book would take her there. She knew she'd end up with the kid because by that point she knew that they weren't
Getting
eating
killed
the
because
kid.
the monster is
They weren't
dead.
being killed because the monster's quote unquote dead. So they're being stored somewhere, and like she pieced everything together in the most logical way, and it was fantastic.
Right, exactly. I mean, like the story kind of helped, but I'm like, you'd still kind of have to piece it together. Which, again, like she's
Right.
supposed to be an editor, I think. So like, it's good that they're giving her intelligence. But then again, this is the person who wrote Ghost, and like after Akari's actress said like she wanted more stuff to do. You know, like she actually got
Yeah.
like she became like the most important character in Ghost. So like, hey, at least we're getting the female character shit to do. So I'm fine with that.
Um, but what a finisher!
Oh god, that thing was amazing. Honestly, holy
I
shit.
like I mentioned on the Sentai podcast, I have all this stuff spoiled for me because I follow Kamen Rider and Sentai tags on Tumblr. So they pop up frequently when the new episodes are up, and I see little clips of things. I sent Rai a message as I watched this episode, or when I saw the clip. I'm like, I have no words for what the fuck the finisher in Saber is this week.
Dude, that was amazing, honestly.
And
It's
then I
so
sent him the
it's
clip.
so dumb and over the top, but I'm like, you know what? Fuck it. It's that level of nonsense that writer is just like, you know what? We'll go for it.
And the sad thing is, like, when I first saw it, it wasn't subtitled. The version I saw, it was raw footage. So I had no context, no nothing. Just this is the finisher. Here you go. Which confused the hell out of me on many levels. But watching it here and using, again, the context of last episode and this episode, it entirely makes sense why the finisher is what it is for this particular one. It's to make Sora want to read books.
Right.
It's to show him that books are fun, because look at this absurd thing that happened because of books. And I personally liked it because it reminded me of Kamen Rider Den-O.
Yeah,
Specifically, Yuto.
Oh yeah, I could see it. I was gonna say it's also a book show, so like whenever somebody's reading, what they're imagining and what somebody else reading it is imagining is not always the same. So it's like, oh yeah, there's like variety in interpreting what it should be, right? So that's
right,
cool.
because most people, when they think of the story of Peter Pan, that's not what they imagine Tinkerbell as.
Right, it's more
They
the
think of
animated.
her they think of her as the little Pixar, DreamWorks, Disney, whoever the frick owns
It's Disney, I
the
think.
image.
Well, I mean, Disney doesn't own Peter Pan, but like they made a Peter Pan thing, right? So.
Yeah, like whoever owns like the Tinkerbell cartoons or animated
Oh,
movies.
that's definitely Disney.
But that's what everybody thinks of as Tinkerbell, the iconic Tinkerbell image.
Yeah, well, I mean, the reason like folklore, I mean, like Tinkerbell is a fairy because like British like old folklore has a lot of fairies and stuff like that, or like
Right.
the UK actually has a lot of myths about them, Irish legends and stuff too.
Right.
So
And
it makes sense
to
why they
be
would appear.
and to be fair, Peter Pan is a very, very fucked up
Oh yeah,
tale.
it sure is.
So
I mean, like
anybody who's watching
most of
this,
the children's stories are pretty fucked up if you see the original. Like the Grimm's fairy tale
not.
version are
Oh
the
yeah,
original versions.
oh yeah. The Grimm's fairy tale versions are atrocious compared to what Disney has. But I don't think anything quite compares to the complete 180 from what we know of Peter Pan versus, from what we've seen in media
Oh
and whatnot,
yeah.
versus the actual fucked up shit that happened.
Right, like imagine Peter Pan or oh, you know what? Better. Imagine Hook and then go read Peter Pan.
Yeah, that it will blow your freaking mind, and you might need therapy afterwards.
Right, like the normal Disney ones are like, oh, okay, the ending's a lot darker than I thought when you read like the older stuff. And it's like, oh
Yeah,
yeah, Peter Pan is like, no, this is like a whole different take on this shit.
yeah, it's an entirely different aspect. But the fact that like that, there are multiple interpretations of the character, and again, everybody's imagination is different. And I think I can solidify entirely why this particular Tinkerbell is the Japanese strong woman, and is, I feel, quite entirely solely for Sora's benefit.
Yeah, pretty much. Makes sense.
Because my dad is strong and kicks ass.
Right, that's true.
Here's a book where one of the characters is strong and kicks ass, apparently.
Yeah, you know what? That's actually a good point. Because like
Um,
you form your worldview from your surroundings, and his dad's kind of just raw power, right? So it makes sense. Whereas like
uh,
nothing in the animated Peter Pan is about power. Well, the animated one anyway.
um, but the fighting fairy, as is her actual credited title in the episode, is Rekka Saiki, who is a professional wrestler, bodybuilder, singer, and idol currently signed to Tokyo Joshi Pro Wrestling.
Oh, nice. Oh, Tokyo Women's Wrestling. Okay,
Um,
nice.
and she is the third professional wrestler to appear in a Kamen Rider franchise.
Nice. I mean,
Um,
I know. Oh shit.
Akira Nagami and Hiroshi Tanahashi.
Yeah, I know Tanahashi was in the Generations, where he's the one who's fighting Shinosuke.
He also played Shoji. Yeah, Shoji Kurose.
Hmm.
Um, in the Dr. Pac-Man versus X-Aid
Right,
and
right.
Ghost Legend Rider. God, on a side note, I'm glad that those unnecessarily insanely long titles are done for now.
Yeah, for now. Um,
Um,
that movie's actually fucking good. Like really good, to be honest.
and Akira Nogami played Zuzane Da in Kamen Rider Kuga.
Oh man, I
So
don't
they were
even. I mean, probably, but like, I don't remember any of the fucking monster names in Kuga. But
right.
like, yeah, it's possible. Like Kuga actually had like a decent variety of actors in it.
Um, but the funny thing for me is when I watched that scene just off the raw footage and all that, I I was on a very small screen because I was on my phone, and it's on the internet, so it wasn't the greatest of
Yeah.
clarity for me. I literally thought they just made CG to make May look like
Oh,
that.
dude, that's what I thought too. I just watched it. I'm like, oh, okay. So it's just May in CD, and so she's like an extra shock. But I'm like, oh, okay, okay. No, it's somebody who looks pretty similar-ish.
Right, it was like watching it on my phone or on my computer. Once she did the whole pose, I'm like, oh yeah, no, that's entirely different person.
Right? Yeah. When she's like attacking, it looks pretty similar. You're right. That's what I thought
Oh,
too. I'm like, I'm not even sure, and I watched it on the big screen. I'm like, oh no, that looks different. Um,
but
but yeah, that's
um,
freaking great. Also, we're
wait,
28 minutes in.
yeah, and to be fair, we are almost done touching on pretty much everything. Um, so we've got a few more books in play that we haven't seen. Primarily one, the what the hell book was it? It was like something Falcon or Bird or whatever. I think.
Oh, it's like Soaring Eagle, I think, or something like that.
Yeah, something like that. Storm Eagle.
Storm Eagle, yeah.
Um, Buster gets a new form, which is Buster Gembu, Jack and the Beanstalk.
Yeah, dude, that was so cool. Like,
Like that
that
for me,
fight
that was
sequence was
unexpected.
amazing. Go ahead.
Like to me, that was unexpected because like I've been so focused on the way that Saber and Blade's suits are set up because I know how the books work on them. Depending on where they put them, depends on where that particular motif ends up, be it left, right, or center. So, like, if you were to use Saber in the last page, it would be on the other side of where it is now.
Right.
But I wasn't expecting any type of form change out of Buster because my brain went full solid motif. All he'll have is like a weapon power up. And no, he can flat out use the books too.
Yeah, I mean, like he doesn't even have the regular belt, right? Because his is the
Yeah, his is
sword.
on the sword.
Yeah, that was pretty cool,
Um,
honestly. Like
which
that
to be
whole
fair, he won't
sequence was
be.
super fun.
To be fair, he won't be the only one set up like that.
Yeah, it makes sense. I mean, like
Um,
it's easier to do because it's the older style where it's like, oh, we just had to change like one arm, to
well,
be the power
I
up.
meant, I meant in terms of not having the belt.
Oh, okay,
Um,
okay, yeah, that makes
because
sense too.
Kenzan's books are in his weapon too in the scans.
Oh, okay, that's cool. I mean, honestly, that's better too because like that. Here's the thing,
It
right? Like,
I
if we
like
give
it,
everybody the same belt, then we're gonna have to dish out like a ton of fucking books
right,
because
and this
it'll be build all over again.
it also gives justification for characters to look as different as they do.
Yeah, that's true. It could
Because
also just be
other
because of the generation thing. It's like in Wizard, like the different, like whoever built the stuff makes them look different. Like Wizard and White Wizard's belt are similar, uh, and then like the Mage belts are similar as to White Wizard, but like Beast is like a whole different belt setup because it's like way ancient. So
right,
like it makes sense. And
um,
whereas like Blades and Saber look like they have the newest tech, right?
yeah. Um, so the other thing we get two small little things. One, the fact that hey, it turns out using all three books not the best idea because
Yeah.
it wears you the hell out.
Right, like honestly, using two of them should have done that, but like I guess the whole gimmick of the show is using at least two. So like yeah,
Right,
they had to power cap it. Like it's the O's thing too. It's like why can't you do full combo all the time? It's like you're just gonna be fucking dead.
right. Like, and this is a way to limit that, but it also gives them that level to overcome.
Right.
You
It's a
know,
nice setup.
and then Caliber uses that time to screw it. I'm gonna attack Saber now. Give me your sword and books.
Right. I mean that's a pretty good distraction too because they're like, well, we beat the monster, hooray! And then like, boom, he shows up. Plus he waits till like Buster is gone. So like
Yeah,
realistic.
he
Like
waits
there's no
till
backup, and then like Kenzan or whoever is the gold one, like he gave his
yeah.
belt, he gave his book to Saber in this episode, pretty much. Well, he gave it to Buster, and Buster gave it to him, right? So it's like he can't show up to assist.
I mean, um, damn it, where'd it go? Come back here, come back here. Um, Kenzan hasn't been in here yet. That was Espada.
Oh, okay, my bad.
Um, Kenzan is green, and um,
It's okay.
Espada
Yeah,
Espada is
Spada's.
the one with the little gold thing. But he
Uh,
still shows up at the end of the episode to save them.
oh yeah, he does. That was pretty cool, honestly.
Um, which he doesn't use his hedgehog is in his main form. That's a secondary one.
Oh, okay, okay.
His main form is Lamp do Aligania.
Oh, Aladdin.
Yeah.
So that's pretty good.
Primary form accessed by the book and the driver. However, he does have Lamp do Hedgehog.
Hmm. This sound okay. You know what this sounds like? Maji Ranger Sixth Ranger. When he has like his henshin device is kind of got like the lamp thing going on, right?
Magic Shine.
Yes, that's what it sounds like, which is interesting.
But yeah, he shows up and stops the attack, and episode end. Um, but yeah, like we said, it's like there wasn't truly anything fully of substance outside of the fight beyond standard get to the episode plot devices.
Right. So like, it's not an amazing episode, but what it is, it's a pretty solid episode of Standard Rider, which this show hasn't had so far. So for this show, this is the best episode so far. And honestly, with everything, like all its gimmicks and everything are in play right now, and it actually seems like a decent show.
Right. Like it's to the point where the start as much as the first two episodes were a giant clusterfuck of what the hell. For various reasons, the last two episodes have been solid. Because it puts the gimmick in full force, gives us the entire, the cap of the gimmick for the moment, and then the one guy that we've been waiting for this crap to start going down starts moving.
Right. I mean, like the only thing really to see if there's any more improvement would be like the intro or definitely the ending, because like Espada's showing up next episode. Let's see if they change it, because if they don't, then I'd say like that's still the biggest issue with the show. Is like it's not even the music; it's just they feel off.
It
right?
feels
like
incomplete.
Yeah, right. Like the editing's a little off.
Like the opening feels incomplete because there's gaps between characters where we obviously know there aren't going to be because they've been filled in. Because Blade's character was filled in the opening, and it's Toma, May, giant gap, and then Ren back here, Rentaro back all the way back here, and it's like there's a lot of space. Obviously, you're going to fill it in as we go, which they have yet to do yet, and they've actually introduced friggin' characters. I guess you have to henshin first before you count.
Yeah, I know, right? Sad.
And apparently we can't get old people to do it because
Buster's not in it.
Buster's not in it.
Yeah, well, the thing is, like Buster,
which I was hoping for.
Yeah, I feel like Buster is a guest star, not like a regular. So I feel like he's just gonna pop up every once in a while.
Right.
And so that's why they're not doing it. But you're right. Like it would have been cool if he was around. But I'm like it's already getting so packed. Right? Like unless you're doing a Sentai show where you need like a full team thing, for a Rider show you don't need that many characters. Right? Because the problem becomes like then. Well, what do the villains throw at you that like 4 riders can't just fucking rider kick out of their way, right? Like it's kind of the like late season problem of like, well, all the good guys are on one team. What are you gonna throw at them?
Right.
Right.
Oh, I know what we'll throw: a good guy turned bad guy.
Oh God, that.
I will admit, 0-1 did that one fantastically.
Yeah, 0-1 did that, but like, God, Rider, that shit's so hit or miss. And Rider.
Oh yeah, it is. Because it's the same thing with either way they go, whether it's a good character turned bad or a bad character turned good. You have to have all the information, and it has to feel natural, not just a giant. What the hell just happened? Like when.
Right.
Like when Thousand Island turned good.
Yeah.
Because that entire plot line went, I'm the most evil asshole, I'm the most evil asshole, I'm the most evil asshole. I'm a good guy now. Why do you all look confused?
Right. I feel like... Okay. One thing that, like, yeah, that show, like, 0-1's really good. And then you have, like, that character, and, like, okay, well... You didn't become a good character, but you became an example character of what not to do. So, your existence is useful, I guess. It's sort of like Evolt, of like how not to write your final arc.
Right.
Or, I mean, Chronos too.
Don't backtrack on plans.
Yeah, well, I mean, I was going to say Chronos too, but like, okay, like those characters, like Chronos, Evolt... Thouser, they exist. Learn from their fuck ups, Toei. Do not repeat them.
Like here, like I've gone back and I've watched X8. I've now watched it 3 times since my initial watching. Well, yes, 100% that entire arc goes on way too long. Everything that happens in it makes perfect fucking sense.
Oh yeah, I agree. Like the X8
Like
one makes sense. It's
every
just dragged
character's
out.
actions, yeah, that's the biggest issue. It's just dragged out. It's something that should have been 10 episodes rather than 15 or 20 or however long Corona's crap started. Um, but yeah, I mean, and even on binging, it's kind of one of those like, oh my god, we're still dealing with this cheating fuckstick.
Yeah,
But
I mean
again, it's
that's
like it all maps out really well in how everything plays out. Is like, to me, that was one of the better fuck ups that they did.
oh yeah. I mean it's
'Cause-
written well. It's just paced badly.
right. Whereas other ones are paced badly and written bad. Evil.
Yeah. Well, we've been going for 40 minutes. I mean, the only thing I was
Um,
gonna say is like the only other fuck up sort of that's not like that, but it is similar. Where it's like it's the whole problem of like, okay, just give the female person a belt is like Fies, whereas like Delta's user, like the first one was a girl and she was freaking great, and then she dies, and then like you get the second classmate person and she's freaking great. She gets detention for less than 30 seconds, and then like this guy who doesn't want to be Delta, doesn't want to deal with it, becomes the user of Delta, and she's the person who's helping him out. I was like, okay, that's kind of bullshit. But the thing is, like, as it goes on, you kind of are like, all right, I can kind of be okay with him having it. So that's one of those cases where they save that their fuck ups, but that's pretty rare.
right. Because usually it ends up in the trash bin with Evil delivering pizzas.
Yeah, pretty much right. Like, um, oh man, like Mage is really annoying too because Mage actually has a really good storyline. They just shit the ending for it.
You're specifically referring to the Medusa look-alike, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Because that's actually
And
a
it was
really
just it got to a point where she was a useless character. Why is she here?
well, it's not even that. It's like she had a really good arc, and everybody's like, okay, basically make her the lead. Because it kind of became like the Fua thing where it's like Fua is kind of carrying the plot. It just turned into Mages is carrying the plot. And it's like, okay, it's not bad. But then like she doesn't get her ending.
Right.
And so it's like, oh, that's kind of sad. So that's like
And
the
then-
one thing. It's like, yeah, don't do that.
And then she turns around and gets relegated right back to being very minor cast again.
Oh yeah, it's true. I mean, at least at the end, where it's like, yeah, she's like the best one of the good guys to be, like take up Wizard's role. So like that's one of those things where it's like you want to see a 10 years after thing where it's like Mages is like doing Wizard's thing, and like I don't know.
Like there's aspects of ways it can be saved.
Yeah.
But yeah, all in all, is like I am much more impressed with Saber than I was to start with.
Oh,
After-
agreed. Like this
after
show's
the last
actually
two
worth
episodes-
recommending now.
Oh yeah, 100%. I mean, it's really weird and awkward at times, but it's gotten really good.
Right. Well, I wouldn't say really good, but it's gotten decent.
Let
But
me rephrase it. It's found its traction.
yes, that's what I was gonna say. It's like it's a little weird, but I'm like, you know what? It's the type of weird I'm okay with. Like if it keeps going this track, it'll be actually an interesting show. Like it won't be mediocre, which is
Right.
impressive because the first couple episodes really were subpar.
And like I said, like usually for me, for some of the earlier writers that I watched, it took me about 10 episodes to truly get into it, to like, oh my god, yes, this is now fantastic. Which, to be fair, in a series that's airing every week is probably not a good thing.
Yeah, I mean, usually
Um,
it takes at least an arc to fully get going.
Right, because like we're still in the process of world building,
Hmm.
getting, here's motivations and all of this backstory that is supposed to make us invested in all these characters. So we kind of don't have that yet. So it's kind of one of those of, I don't know if I care for you yet.
Right.
I don't know why you're doing. I don't care. I don't know why Ren's here, because you were apparently supposed to teach him shit, and he's pretty much figuring it out all on his own.
Oh yeah, that's true. That's like the one annoying thing is like Toma is a little too good at what he does. That's like my only major complaint, because it makes Blades kind of useless.
So, but it does make sense with the theory that Saber, the original Saber, the one we get in the introduction preview, is that if that was his father, because that would pass on the innate ability to basically just, I can kind of run this off of intuition and instinct.
Okay, I mean, to be fair, it's the guy who wrote Ghost, so I'm like, if I see Powered by Dad, I could see it happening with this guy.
Like I said, and this doesn't even necessarily have to be powered by Dad. It's just one of those, oh yeah, my dad used this, so I saw him use it.
Yeah, it's just
I might have wiped all those memories out of my head, but that instinct is still there.
Yeah, I could see that. Very Garo-esque, but anyway, we've been going for like 46 minutes. Solid episode. I really have nothing else to say. I actually want to see the next episode, which is freaking rare for this show.
Because again, it did that perfect cutoff where shit's happening and we want to see how it plays out now. And it's like, let's go. So on that note, thank you all for joining us. We will be back next Tuesday for more Machine Sentai Kira Major. And what a delightful show that is. And we'll be back on next Wednesday for more Kamen Rider Saber. That being said, in the next couple of weeks, there will also be a Miraculous episode 2, because
nice.
The Heroes in New York movie is out.
Huh, cool.
So those of us that enjoy Miraculous will watch that and then set up a time for the podcast. There will be an event created, so look out for that.
Yeah, we'll set something up. Anyway, thanks everyone for joining us. It's me, Zero, signing off. Catch you next time.